All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Raiders Daily. So Jimmy Garoppolo got busted for PEDs. Kind of funny situation. We don't really know too much of the nitty gritty of that, but the writing's on the wall, man. Jimmy Garoppolo's gone, right? It just the whole signing in general when they picked him up with Josh McDaniels, and he was going to be the starting quarterback. It wasn't foolproof, right? And he did what he did. He's from my hometown, so I'm definitely not going to diss the guy. But like I said, the writing is on the wall. He will not be the starting quarterback for the Raiders next season. He won't even be on the roster for the Raiders for much longer, I'm going to assume. And the Raiders, the good news is they're going to be able to save just a little bit of money, right? Not to anything crazy, but it will definitely free up a little bit of cap space. And so now the question just becomes, all right, now the only two quarterbacks on the roster at the moment, or when he would be cut eventually, are going to be Brian Hoyer and Aiden O'Connell. And so, we know, and we've been talking about on this channel pretty much every day for the last month now, that the Raiders do plan on making a move for a quarterback, whether that's going to be in the trade market for a guy like Justin Fields, whether they go for a guy like Captain Cousins, whether they go for a draft pick at pick number 13. We just know at the end of the day, or even like a Ryan Tannehill free agent acquisition, we just know that the quarterback room will have some competition next season outside of just Aiden O'Connell and Brian Hoyer. So before we get into tonight's video, if you guys enjoy this video and Daily Raiders content, be sure to hit that like button, hit that sub button for it. Raiders fans, if we try and get this video to 100 likes, that would mean the absolute world to me. Once again, thank you guys so much for 10,000 subscribers. So, the Raiders, unfortunately, man, the quarterback isn't even the biggest need. The Raiders have a couple of holes that they need to fill. I'm looking at the offensive line. There are definitely some defensive moves that they need to make to just bolster it, to just tighten it up, strengthen it, get some more depth. They could use another edge rusher, but I really like the way Malcolm Kuntz played. They could use another defensive lineman, but I really like the way Tyree Wilson looked when he was moved to interior defensive line. They're definitely going to need some room in the cornerback room. But at the end of the day, man, you need a quarterback. That's just the way it is. And, yesterday I really ranted about this in our video last night. Here's the bottom line, though. The Raiders are picking at pick number 13. And I am just convinced they're going to go with the quarterback. Now, here's the thing. And we've been talking about this, and we're going to continue to talk about this for the next 2 months. The quarterbacks in the draft, right now, you could make a very legitimate argument that it's going to be 1, 2, and 3. It's going to be Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, and then, Drake May or whatever. You could see a draft where in the top 16 picks, there's 5 or 6 quarterbacks being selected. And Raiders selecting at 13 at this time of recording, you're most likely looking at a JJ McCarthy. You're most likely looking at a Bo Nix. Depending on where you evaluate Michael Penix, I think Michael Penix is well worth the draft selection at pick number 13. But until we get into the combine, the mock drafts and the draft boards are just going to change drastically. Jaden Daniels in the last couple of weeks, for some reason, has kind of fallen to late top 10 picks, depending on who you ask or depending on what mock draft you read. As far as I'm concerned, Jaden Daniels is the second best quarterback in this class by far. If you ask me, the first 3 or the first 4 picks are going to go Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels to Washington, Drake May, and then Marvin Harrison Jr. to pick number 4. Now, with that being said, this is just a very good draft class in general, let alone with the quarterbacks. That's a given. And so you could see Marvin Harrison go pick number 2. You could see him go pick number 3. If you ask a specific Bears fan, they're not even hating the idea of taking Marvin Harrison Jr. at pick number 1 and just running it back with Justin Fields and DJ Moore and taking Marvin Harrison Jr. at pick number 1. I go back to Will Levis and Anthony Richardson last year. So the Raiders last season were selecting at pick number 7. And at this time last year, if I hop back on the mic like we did last year, and I said the Raiders should take Anthony Richardson at pick number 7, that got a lot of backlash. And then the draft combine comes, and it's oh, shit, dude, Anthony Richardson's a top 5 quarter pick. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the draft class. People wanted Anthony Richardson possibly going pick number 1, once again, depending on who you ask. I remember Will Levis conversations at being pick number one. I remember reading mock drafts where the Raiders trade up for pick number one to select Will Levis. Thank goodness they didn't end up, I won't say that because I think Will Levis is pretty cool, but, being number one and trading up for number one, you get what I'm saying, hopefully. The point is, the draft's just going to change a lot. Like, I think JJ McCarthy is one of those players who, like before the championship game for college football, and, if like we just go back like a month on the calendar date to like middle of January, JJ McCarthy was kind of this quarterback who was, an early second round, maybe a early or a late first round pick. And now you're starting to see him creep into the top 10. And now you're starting to see him definitely 100% be a top or first round quarterback. And then you have guys like Harbaugh say he's the best quarterback in the NFL draft, and he's going to go pick number one. So, I was just reading a mock draft, and JJ McCarthy went pick number 12, and then Bo Nix, this was like Sports Illustrated, I believe. Bo Nix went pick number 13 to the Las Vegas Raiders. And, we'll talk about all these different quarterbacks on this channel as the days go by, like we have with mainly guys like Jaden Daniels. But Bo Nix would be really intriguing, in my opinion, to just kind of bring in a veteran college football guy. He's an older prospect. He's turning 24 later this month. So there's some hesitation there with just his age, but he brings just a ton of starting experience. And I think that's going to translate very easily into the NFL. And I think Bo Nix being a starting quarterback year one of his career, it's very foreseeable. It just depends on the landing spot there. Outside of, JJ going pick number 12 and then Bo Nix going 13, not really any quarterbacks being selected anywhere near there. So, I think at this time of recording that there will be 5 quarterbacks selected in the first round of the NFL draft, and probably in the first 15 picks. But like I said, with that being said, you got guys like Joe Alt, you got Marvin Harrison Jr. Trades are going to happen. Justin Fields might get dealt. Things are going to move. Things are going to continue to shift. But just kind of the point of this video is Jimmy Garoppolo won't be a Raider next year. And like I said, the writing was on the wall there once Josh McDaniels got fired. And in order to keep it a buck with you, when Jimmy Garoppolo stepped out onto the field, he did get the short end of the stick in the sense of his injury. It kind of seems like Jimmy Garoppolo's injury last season was, kind of undercovered. It was a lot worse than it was made out to be. And that's just football. So basically, the point of this video was that. Not too much. I should probably stop talking. So let me know what you guys are thinking about Jimmy Garoppolo's PED suspension for 2 games. Let me know your thoughts on him being eventually cut from the Las Vegas Raiders. And, what are you doing at pick number 13? I just love reading what you guys have to say about what the Raiders should do with their first round selection and with the quarterback in general. So thank you guys so much for watching. Seriously, have a great rest of your weekend, and we'll see you in a couple of days at the very most. Peace.